My name is Jeff Cowie. I own J-Cow Repairs in Norfolk, Nebraska. I do phone, computer, and tablet repair, as well as some IT services. Yesterday I attended the hearing for the Right to Repair Act, LB67 in Lincoln, Nebraska. As a natural-born citizen of Nebraska, I was born in Nebraska, I live here, I own a business here in Nebraska. I honestly was insulted yesterday by the way our government worked, the way it was presented, the way our senators acted, the way we were represented. I was insulted. I was disappointed by the way that they treated these people from out of state. I don't think they really realized how big this bill is. I should start out first saying that I was really excited to go to Lincoln to be a part of this. I got to meet people that I look up to, that I learn a lot from. Jessa, Louis, there's a few other people. One of the guys was from iFixit. A few of the other guys that I don't know personally, but I know of, that also own repair shops here in Nebraska. I got to meet all these people. I was really excited to do that, and I was excited for them to see Nebraska in a way, at least the people from out of state. And honestly, I was very disappointed in the way that it was portrayed. I was just rewatching the live stream from Louis that he did, and being there in person was, I didn't realize how horrible. I mean, I was able to see the senators from where I was sitting in the audience, but I wasn't able to see some of the things that they're doing. Supposedly, and not really supposedly, but if you actually look in the stream, there was footage of one of the senators was on Facebook. What the heck? You were on Facebook? Apparently another one, from what I've heard, was sleeping, or looked as though he was sleeping, as though he was just bored by it. One of them, from what I read or heard someplace, he was drawing pictures of trees. Whether those other two are true, the Facebook thing, which you can see in the live stream, I'm probably showing it on the screen right now, that's ridiculous. Like, really? I'm disappointed in you. You are an elected representative of the state, of people. No. That's uncalled for. That is unprofessional. No. That is not good at all. You have people from out of state, from New York, and I know one of the senators asked them at one point, asked both Jessa and Louis, and as well as some other folks, why are there so many people from out of state interested in this bill?
So why are you here today? There's two people in a row from the state of New York. Why are you here?
Because it's very important. This is the Right to Repair Act. If this is passed, this is going to make repair in Norfolk and Nebraska so much better. It's going to set a precedent for other states, these 7 other states that already have this brought forward. That's why they're interested in this. And if you really want to take that opinion, why didn't you ask any of the other people on the opposing side? Were any of them from Nebraska? I think there's, maybe 2, 3? I don't think I kept track. A lot of them were out of state. One of them, I think the first person up there was from Virginia. Why didn't you ask her? Why are you from out of state? And if we're gonna take that approach, if we're just not gonna, take the opinions of anyone from out of state, then let me get up there. And by the way, I was in line to speak, but because the senators were taking so long and asking all these questions, wasting so much time, I didn't get a chance to speak. There were people there from Nebraska interested in this bill that were ready to speak, but because you took so long, we didn't get a chance to speak. I was ready to speak. I ended up giving my testimony in written form, but I don't feel like that's the same. The fact that part of you were wasting time on Facebook, you were wasting time asking questions that didn't even pertain to the bill, the whole WikiLeaks thing, like, oh, I heard from WikiLeaks. Yeah, I know that was on the opposing side, but when you had to ask some of these stupid questions, you're joking about, oh, he just realized what a VCR is. Like, this is very unprofessional. I'm disappointed in these representatives in Nebraska. I'm disappointed in the way that you were displayed not only to these people that I look up to. I'm disappointed in the way that you showed that you displayed yourselves to the world, because believe it or not, there were people watching that live stream that weren't even from the US. There were people from Australia, from the UK, there's a guy from Germany at one point. I was in the live stream, in the chat, watching all these people. I was trying to keep updated with everything, and yeah, I was on my phone too, but I wasn't talking to people on Facebook. I was trying to keep updated. At least I paid attention. I knew what was going on. Should also mention, one of the things I was going to mention when I was up there was that in Norfolk, the closest authorized Apple store, like an Apple store or authorized Apple retail or whatever, the closest one is either Omaha or Sioux City. Omaha is 2 hours away. Sioux City's about an hour and a half. But the thing is, that's out of state. And then you gotta think Panhandle as well. You gotta think all the Sandhills and Panhandle. It's that direction actually. That's west. Yeah. So that's these people. All of these people who own all these phones, if they want to get it fixed, they either have to drive 2 miles. Yeah, not 2 miles. They have to drive 2 hours, or they're going to go out of state and take that money that could have been kept in state. I'm kind of ranting at this point, but it's very unprofessional. And honestly, I think that we should have another hearing. I think that. I don't think that's too ridiculous to ask, because if you want to go ahead and say, yeah, okay, no one from out of state can speak, fine, let me up there. I'll talk to you. I'll tell you exactly why we in Nebraska, not, whether we repair tractors, whether we repair phones or computers or printers, why we want to stand up for this right to repair. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons, I'll go through what I would have said. My written statement is nothing near what my spoken statement would have been. Number one, it's going to help me create jobs. Okay, that's not number one. Number one, it's going to keep business in Nebraska. You don't realize that. If you say you're for Nebraska and you suddenly don't, you're for all these businesses in Nebraska, and if we introduce this law, then these businesses will leave. No, that's not at all going to happen. These businesses aren't suddenly just going to stop selling in the center of the United States. That's ridiculous. If anything, it's going to help. It's going to help my business. It's going to help all the handful of other people who are also had repair shops that were in Norfolk or that are in Nebraska, that were sitting right next to me in the audience, that were also ready to speak. That unfortunately, because these senators wasted so much time, for the ones that paid attention were wasting time, the ones that weren't paying attention for whatever reason, because you didn't let us speak, you don't know that now. So that was going to help my business as a local business. It was going to help me hopefully create a job, at least for me. Hopefully 2, 3 down the road. My dream is to have a nice big building that I do tons of different things, and I'm a big facility, and maybe have multiple locations. But think of all the other repair shops in Nebraska that could have helped, and not just phone repair or computer repair. Think of all the places that work on cars and tractor equipment. How is that going to help them? Think about it. It's going to do enormous. I really liked the one guy on the opposing side. He was from the air and cooling industry. They work on like air conditioners and heating ducts and stuff like that. I think refrigeration as well. I really liked what he had to say. What he said was, our industry basically already does that. Exactly. I don't know why he was on the opposing side. He should be for it, because he already kind of is. It's these arguments, the opposing and for this bill were closer than we think. I don't know how many businesses here in Norfolk that work on air conditionings and heating ducts and plumbing and stuff like that are certified, and didn't, if my Creighton or my Hamilton Beach, whatever, I'm just looking at my appliances here in my shop, if they break down, I don't have to call the Hamilton Beach dealer store here in Norfolk. I just call whatever guy that comes and works on the air conditioner or comes and works on my fridge. And that's another thing I should mention. I would have mentioned this if I was up there. A few years ago, my washer broke. It was my mother-in-law's washer. You know how I fixed it? I didn't call another place. I didn't call a guy to come work on it. I turned it around. I took it out of where it was. I turned it around. Right down the back was the schematic. Why is that not a thing anymore? Like, I don't know about any of the newer fridges. Like, if I were to go buy a brand new fridge, brand new washer, if that's going to be the case. I don't think it would be. But why can't that be a thing for phones? And like Louis was saying, if you give us these proper equipment, this proper documentation, the proper tools, the proper parts as well, I'll get to that. If you give us these things, we're not going to go and remake new ones. Make another MacBook or something. We're just going to use them to fix them. And if your argument could be that, the opposing side's argument could be that, yeah, a competitor might take that same product, or take that schematic in some way, create another MacBook or something. But if that's the case, wouldn't you just take them to court on copyright? Maybe I'm missing something there. I'm not a politician. I'm not a lawyer on copyright law or anything on that. I'm a guy that fixes things. A guy that loves to fix things. And by the way, I'm not in it for the money. I do have to make a living. I do have to support my family. But I'm in it because I love to fix things. I love to see the face. I love to see that on someone's face when I'm able to save all of their photos on their phone, or save them hundreds of dollars that they would have spent getting it repaired, either through insurance or through the manufacturer, and not have saved any of their information. I think that if we have the ability to do that, we should be pursuing any and every option to help us as in the repair industry to do exactly that. Because like I was saying, there's only a few devices we can do that on. I've got a Galaxy S7 or a Galaxy S6 here. I was able to save all the information off of it for $50. I replaced the battery on it. That's about it. Otherwise it wasn't turning on. They were going to send it to insurance, and they were going to have to pay $175. They were going to get a refurbished phone, which not always, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, refurbished. But they weren't going to get any information back. I saved it for $50. Now unfortunately that's not always the case, because like the senator said to Jessa, if you're already doing this stuff, why do you need this bill? Because we can only do it on a certain amount of devices.
A lot of what we're asked to do is legislate common sense and the ability to do it. You're already doing it. So why are we legislating the capability for you to do what?
That's a great question. I could fix Kelly's phone because it was an iPhone and I happened to have a piece of information that fell off a truck in China. Without that piece of information, I would not have been able to fix her phone.
Another Chinese intervention. My God. Thank you.
Okay.
With this bill passing, it will broaden the selection of devices and the efficiency that we can do it. We can do it in probably half the amount of time if we have the proper schematics. I don't know about time-wise, but the amount of devices we'll be able to do it on will be, in my hope, much broader. Coming back to what I was saying about parts, when it comes to parts, it's rather, I wouldn't say difficult, it's annoying. I'd say it's really annoying to get proper parts. Now for something like a MacBook, I know, for someone working on something like a computer, like Louis, he works on MacBooks, he's one of the guys that I follow, he's one of the folks that spoke at the hearing. I'm not sure about parts there. I know he uses a lot of donor boards. He'll use a board that is probably already dead or has something wrong with it that he just uses it for parts. I do that for phones as well. But when it comes to phones, I do a lot of screen replacements. And for the longest time, I claimed that I used OEM parts because I felt that I thought I did. Honestly, I used the best parts that I thought I could find. They were great. They're the greatest parts, the best parts. But I thought I was using the best parts that I could get. I thought they were OEM until I suddenly realized, after talking with the supplier a little bit more, how they danced around the question of whether they use OEM parts or not. I realized I probably shouldn't claim that. That would be, in a sense, a lie to my customers. And I'm, much like other businesses, including a business here in Norfolk that I used to work for and have high respect for, we're all about transparency. And I think just about every business should be about transparency to an extent. Claiming that I use OEM parts I felt was a lie. So I changed to saying I use high-end parts. They're not the originals, because it's kind of difficult to get originals, at least in my opinion. I can get an original iPhone battery, or a Samsung battery, but it's probably used. It's probably pulled out of a working phone that has a bad ESN or something, or it was probably stolen too. There's a chance of that. It was probably stolen and parted out and sold on eBay or something, and then for whatever reason, gets sold to my supplier. And yeah, so getting OEMs is difficult, or annoying, not difficult. And using the screens, and for the longest time I thought I was using OEM screens. It turns out that they were just really good remakes. And so with the introduction of this bill, I think that's probably the number one thing in my book is I'm all about the quality. I never intended to be the cheapest phone repair shop out there or in my town. There are people that do it for a lot cheaper than me, and that's fine. I'm more about the quality. And if I can, I try to use original parts. I can't always get them, so it's hard to do it that way. It's hard to explain to these senators why this bill is so important, because they're not part of the industry. It's such a niche group of people and people and businesses in this industry that you really only understand the frustrations if you're a part of it. I think every business does a good job of putting up that front of their business of saying, we use high-end parts, we do everything a good job. But right behind that, I think is people, or but right behind that front are people like myself who, if we run into an issue, we're not going to some documentation supplied by Apple or Samsung or LG. We're going on a forum, so type it in, hey, does anybody else have this issue? What did you do? And that's, we say we're using professional, high-end parts, professional, but right behind that sign is a guy that, when he runs into an issue, is either a really high experience and has just dealt with these issues before, or he's just depending on the other people around him who also are in the same industry. I'm sorry that I went off on a rant. I just wanted to say to the senators yesterday, you are an embarrassment to the citizens of Nebraska. You are unprofessional, and that was pathetic.